We're gonna move back now towards the mid pipe. So right here, there's a little bracket that secures the downpipe. We're going to use the 14. This will be reused when installing the new pipe, so don't misplace it. Right here we have the O2 sensor connector. Just depress this little clip here and then pull it out. You might have to use a slight amount of force, and then just snake that through after we get the pipe off. Now I am back here where the downpipe connects to the mid pipe. These nuts and bolts are size 12 millimeter. So we just have to take these two connections off, and then we basically have the ability to remove the downpipe now. Now with all these bolts and nuts removed, all you need to use now is manpower in order to release the downpipe from this little security little flex thing here. I don't really know what it's actually called, but all you have to do is push it up, push up the pipe, and then you have to, at the same time, you have to push this outward, and the tension is actually pretty strong, so you will need a significant amount of like finger or thumb strength to push this back in order to release it. I didn't want to get pinched, so I used the butt end of my ratchet to force that little piece back. All we have to do now is drop this connection, and then the downpipe is basically loose. All I have to do now is navigate it outward, so push it towards the back of the car. But before we do that, gotta go back to the O2 sensor, little power cord. We gotta make sure it doesn't get trapped, so gotta tuck it in so that it comes out. And now, here it goes. Basically just drops, and then slide it out. One thing to note on the stock downpipe is that on the tail end of it, it uses this donut style exhaust gasket. On most aftermarket downpipes, they switch to a 2-bolt flat style exhaust gasket. So since this one is not going to be reused, we're going to keep it on the stock downpipe and store it as is. Right here is where the O2 sensor is located. You'll need this well, to make it easy, this is an O2 sensor socket. You can do it with a regular box wrench if you want, but this just makes it easier. Here's how it works. And this is something that we will be reusing on the new pipe. Right up here we have the old downpipe to turbo gasket, exhaust gasket. Remove this old one and replace it with a new gasket. I mean, every single time you take off your exhaust piping, it's best practice to replace gaskets with new one each time. If you don't have new gaskets, and you can always reuse these. If it leaks, hopefully you have a diagnostic tool or monitoring system that will tell you. So it's better to be safe and just replace them. While you're down here and you have your turbo exposed, you can also check the health of your turbine. You can just do that by checking to see if there's any like wiggle. Spin it, make sure that it's smooth, and it's pretty smooth. Here's the internal wastegate. Okay, with all the old stuff removed, it's time to put the aftermarket parts in place. This is the aftermarket downpipe that I will be installing. The brand, if anybody cares, is NVIDIA. It has this bung here for an EGT sensor, but I don't have one installed right now. It is a catted downpipe, so this right here is the cat. Big difference between this pipe and the stock one is the bell mouth. So on the stock one, this side is completely blocked off. Clearly on this one, it's open, so obviously the airflow is going to be significantly better. That's where the O2 sensor is going to go, and this is what connects to the mid pipe. So if you remember earlier, this design is for a flat exhaust gasket, not that donut gasket. So as I mentioned earlier, these are the old gaskets and these are the new ones. I always recommend replacing your exhaust gaskets if you ever take them apart and have to reinstall them. I'm going to take the O2 sensor, make sure none of the wires are crossed, and install it onto the aftermarket downpipe. That's pretty much it. We're gonna bring this pipe back under the car and fit it into place with the new exhaust gaskets. Back under the car, gonna put the downpipe to turbo gasket on first. Let it sit on the 3 studs on the bottom. Okay, let that hang loosely. Now we're going to fit the downpipe into place. Put the nuts in on the studs, just for extra security. If you didn't hear or see, I snapped the downpipe in place to this little flex thing right here. It locks it in place, so it's pretty much secured. So just hand tying the nuts into place. Now we're going to come here and we have to navigate this O2 sensor cord back up into this heat shield. It is extremely tight, so, and the heat shield is very sharp, so be very careful not to cut yourself or get yourself cut. Once you snake it through, just plug it back into its place. You should hear a click, and that's pretty much done there. Going to take this downpipe to mid-pipe gasket along with the two mounting bolts and nuts and put it in place way back here. So I'm going to go ahead and scoot back. Again, you have a very tight workspace with these heat shields, and it is sharp, so take your time, take it slow so you don't get hurt. Okay, so it doesn't have to be super tight right now, just hold it in place. We'll tighten it later, as long as everything is in and holding. Going to put this stock heat shield bracket back. Okay, with that bracket in place with those two bolts and nuts, the next thing we're going to do here is start tightening them. So when you tighten them, remember there are 5 secured area up on the downpipe to turbo, 2 up top and 3 in the bottom. So to apply even pressure, secure them in a like crisscross or star type pattern as best as you can. So since we're already up here, we're going to start from the top and then just move around in the pattern. Okay, now we're going to go down to the bottom and just repeat this process for all 5 nuts and bolts. And then after all of that's done, we'll come back and go on to the next one, so you guys don't have to wait around as I move back and forth. Back on the bottom of the car, I'm going to have to reconnect these 2 spring clips to secure the turbo blanket. The 3 nuts and the 2 bolt and nut on the top has been secured, so the downpipe and the turbo are now connected. It's actually pretty difficult to connect these 2 springs the way they are spread apart, so I'm going to spend some time to make that happen, and then we'll just cut to the next part. With the two spring clips connected, the turbo blanket is in place. The next thing we're going to do is bring this heat shield up. We have to work around the downpipe and slowly slide it in place. I kind of taped the bolts in place for safekeeping, so now I'm going to remove them. You have to mount them from the top, so we'll just slide this up, and then after that we will bring these bolts up with us to secure them. There are 3 bolts in total. Alright, find a way to keep it rested up there. Take your 3 bolts that you have, go back up top real quick before it falls back down, and then secure them in place. Alright, it's time to switch view. Alright, so I was able to pull the heat shield back up. I've already put 1 bolt in right here. So it's pretty much in place. Now I can take my time to secure the remaining 2 bolts. With the intercooler on, you'll have to feel for it where the mounting hole is. Obviously, it's a lot easier if the intercooler was off. But with this intercooler, it's actually pretty difficult to take on and off, so that's why I elected to keep it on. Okay. I was able to feel for and hand screw all 3 into place. So now with a 10mm wrench, I'm going to go in and start tightening them. There's not a lot of space, so just take your time and secure them in place. Okay, and the third one is right down here. Right here. Okay, so with that one, we're going to take a 10mm socket and reach in. So this is why I left the airbox out, because I actually needed to reach in to better access this bolt. That's pretty much it. Make sure that when you install this style of turbo heat shield, that the turbo heat shield does not interfere with the internal wastegate arm. So it's not too difficult to check. You can feel for right here to see if they're making contact, and in this case they're not. So it's fine. Same thing for your turbo blanket. Make sure the turbo blanket isn't preventing the wastegate arm from actually actuating. Okay, with that, we're gonna go back down to where the downpipe is and secure it in place with all of the other bolts and nuts that we took off.